Hey guys, so I just got home from work. My wife has strep throat. I'm getting over pneumonia. We're doing good. So what I thought I would make is some soup. This is the chicken I roasted the other day, the last of it. I just have like one little chicken breast left, so I'll just take this chicken breast right off this carcass here, if I can. There we go. Once I found the spot, came right off the carcass, and just throw this carcass right into a pot. I'm going to add all the fat. I'll keep the leg. These bones, this, and all this fat, and the gelatin right to this pot. I think I left one little bone. I'll take out this last little bone right here. And this meat, none of this is going to be wasted. I'm going to cover this with water. And what I'll do is, I'll even throw this skin in there. And I'll use this chicken as the chicken for the soup, along with whatever chicken I can pull off the meat of the carcass. So I'm going to throw this in fill this with water, about 3/4 of the way full, and put it in on the fire for about an hour. I may need to enrich the stock, but at least that'll give me a good base to start the soup with. So I'll start this up, and I'll show you what vegetables I'm going to put in it. So what I'm putting in the soup, start with some carrots here. Now these, I just peeled these carrots up really fast, and I'm going to just trim the tips off of them, the root end and the tip end, so I can get them cut up. Get rid of this here. So for carrots, I'll just show you one or two. What you want to do is just cut a carrot in half like that, and then just run your knife through it so you have nice little even slices. Because we want everything to cook about the same time when we're making a soup. We don't want one thing to be very, very done and one thing to be less done. So we're trying to get everything uniform. A lot of times if you have a homemade soup, you'll find that, you see how I start bigger and then I start going smaller when it gets closer to the root, the thicker root end. A lot of times when you have a homemade soup made at somebody's house, some of the vegetables will be really crunchy and some will be very mushy. That's because they didn't cut their vegetables uniform. So that's how you do carrots. I'll show you, I'm going to do carrot, celery, and onion, just a mirepoix, they call it in French. It's just a term for carrot, celery, and onions. So I'll come back to you on the celery. Yeah, so don't worry with the same with the celery. You just want to cut it in half and cut them all about the same size. See, those are all uniform. This would be called a large dice. So we just want to large dice all our vegetables. Now, the way I normally would do it, I wouldn't just do one. I go through and get a bunch. Something I can manageably hold in my hand, and then quickly dice up a bunch. That's how I do it with everything. I would quickly get a bunch I can manage in my hand without cutting myself. And some of these pieces don't even need to be cut, they're so small. But get something I can manage in my hand. These nice little hearts are good too. We can even leave the feathers on. Even them up. With your fingers turned back like this, it's this motion. With your fingers turned back in the knife motion. I can't do slow-mo, I don't have the technology, but hopefully you can see how I cut. And I'm going real slow for you guys. If you've seen some other videos, I can cut pretty fast, but I don't want to. But I'm going nice and slow just so you can see how I cut vegetables. And then I always use a bench scraper or a pastry knife to transport my vegetables wherever I need them to go. Alright, let me show you how to do some onions now. When cutting onions, if you're doing a fine dice, you would cut them first this way, and then this way. So what you do, this is going to be a larger dice or a medium dice. Again, slice the onion that way, hold it with your fingers rolled back, rest your knife against your hand, and you can just be able to come up really easy with no tears or any problems. Here, I'll show you another one. Normally if I was going to do fine dice, I would do like this. Let me show you one fine dice. You would cut like that, and then you come through and cut down, and then just run your knife right through, and that would give you a really good fine dice. And the way I hold my knife, I don't know if some of you have seen, but I actually wrap one finger around. Instead of holding the knife here, I actually bring my knife up. And that's any knife. If I'm using a chef-style knife, the same thing. Or if I'm using a bread knife, I hold them all the same way. It gives me more leverage. That's a trick I learned working at, I don't even remember what restaurant. Before I went to culinary college. That was a trick I learned. But you can see all you do is just cut down and then out. You can even do this with your eyes closed. They burn, you know. I don't know, you're not watching me, my eyes are closed right now because this is burning my eyes a little bit because I have a lot of onions. And they're all cut up. Now this is turning more into a knife skills video than it is a chicken soup video, but take what we can take. I'm going to show you how to cut up this chicken breast. You lay your hand just flat, and then you can go right down and cut right through it with a sharp knife. And when you get to the end, you just turn on end and cut. And that's one way to cut it a little smaller. And again, make sure when you're cutting, you keep your fingers turned back. So when I'm cutting this, let me see if I can zoom up a little bit. Hopefully you can see this, but see how I'm turning my fingers in when I'm cutting, and I'm rolling the knife. I'll show you a little better this way, I think I'm in view. You roll your fingers in, and the knife rolls. And you always get a nice, perfect cut that way, and you don't cut your fingers. It's very important not to cut your fingers. I've done it enough to where I don't want you guys to do it. And it helps to have a sharp knife, but there you go. So it's been about an hour. I've let this boil really hard for an hour, and I have 1900 BTU burners. So when I say it boiled hard for an hour, it started boiling within minutes of me throwing it on the stove, and boiled at a full rolling boil for an hour. Which typically for soup, if you're trying to make stock from scratch like I'm doing right here, I'm kind of making a starter stock, because a true stock, I would let it simmer for about 4 hours. But I'm just making a starter stock, and I'll probably enrich this with some base, which is a canned stock basically. I'll show you, I'll show you. I've used it in some other videos. It's called Better Than Base, and I use that quite a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel off all the meat off these bones. Now I got this pan going. Add some olive oil and let that get to temperature. It's gotten almost to smoking, so it's pretty hot. So I'm going to add all the vegetables I diced up earlier right to that. I'm going to give it a good amount of salt. And some fresh cracked black pepper. Now you can see these vegetables have cooked down quite a bit. The onions are tender, and the carrots and the celery have started to get tender as well. So what I'm going to do